My name is Mandy Albrecht, and I am this year's VIP Distinguished Speaker Series Chair. The VIP Distinguished Speaker Series is one of the many programs put on by the Undergraduate Business Council for the Red McCombs School of Business. Today we are joined by Dean Gilligan, Dean of McCombs, and Mr. Charles Holley, Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer of Wal-Mart Stores Incorporated. We will begin tonight with an interview between Dean Gilligan and Mr. Holley. Then we will open the floor to a Q&A from the audience. As a reminder, today's event will end promptly at 6:30. We will greatly appreciate it if you could refrain from leaving early and using electronic devices. Mr. Holley is the Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer for Wal-Mart Stores. He is responsible for accounting and control, corporate strategy and development, business planning and analysis, internal auditing, treasury, tax, and several other key areas of the company. Mr. Holley has had various roles within Wal-Mart Stores, including treasurer and chief risk officers. Before joining Wal-Mart, Mr. Holley was managing director at Tandy Corporation and also spent more than 10 years with Ernst Young. Under Mr. Holley's leadership, Wal-Mart Stores Incorporated help people around the world save money and live better anytime and anywhere, in retail stores, online, and through their mobile devices. Each week, more than 245 million customers and members visit our nearly 11,000 stores under 71 banners in 27 countries and e-commerce websites in 10 countries. Mr. Holley received his BBA in accounting from the University of Texas at Austin and earned his MBA in finance from the University of Houston. He has a certificate, he's a certified public accountant. Also, Mr. Holley is an active alumni at UT and currently serves on the Dean's Advisory Council. Along with this, Mr. Holley is an active board member for the Cancer Challenge of Northwest Arkansas and serves on the National Board of Trustees for the First Tee. He was awarded the 2013 Outstanding Corporate Championship Award by the McCombs School of Business. Please help me welcome Dean Gilligan and Mr. Holley.
Thanks, Mandy. Everybody hear me okay? Great. Charles, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Austin.
Great to be here.
It's always good to have you back here.
It's great to be here.
And thank you so much for bringing your team with us here. They've been here all day and tomorrow, I guess, and they're going to help recruit students and
This
educators.
is Wal-Mart week.
Wal-Mart week
at McCombs.
All right. We'll look forward to that. Well, one of the traditions of the VIP Speaker Series is to have a previous speaker leave a question, kind of with a half-life, for the subsequent speaker here. And our previous speaker was David Williams, the president and CEO of the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and many in the audience will have attended that series. He left the following question for you. What is your favorite charity that you admire and support?
It's a good question. First of all, I think I really favor charities that help people that have a hard time helping themselves. And my wife and I are involved in several. I serve on the board of the local Cancer Challenge that serves the needs of people with cancer in Northwest Arkansas. And then also we've gotten interested through your wife, Christy, with Discover the World. And it deals with orphanages in Africa that are affected by AIDS. But my favorite one actually is, if I have to name, is the one my wife started actually in Arkansas, and it deals with ALS, and it's very big time. It's timing with this. Have you seen the Ice Bucket Challenge?
Who hasn't?
And it was needed. There was no support in Arkansas for ALS, and Shannon had a friend that passed away from it and promised that she would help bring awareness and help people support it. And so she works about as hard on that as I do at Wal-Mart, and I'd say that's probably my favorite charity right now.
Has that bucket challenge had a dramatic effect on the community around Bentonville?
It has. Our CEO has taken the bucket challenge. All of his directs have taken it. Sometimes they weren't aware they were going to take it, and it has worked out pretty well. But the awareness and getting the support for the people with ALS has been tremendous.
Got it. Charles, part of this series is to just acquaint students with the background of business leaders and how they got there and things. So I'd like to ask some personal questions that go way back, and this one goes as far back as you care to take it. Tell us something about your first job and the kind of values and lessons you learned from it that you think matter for you today.
My very first job was actually as a busboy, and I made $1.35 an hour, and it was at O'Leary's Ice Cream Parlor in Fort Worth, Texas. And I was actually underage. I couldn't get a health card, but so they'd sneak me around. But I was really determined to work because my father had really instilled a work ethic in me at a young age. It's either I go to school or I work, or sometimes both. And so if I wanted some extra things, I actually wanted to save money to buy an 8-track tape player. That was a big deal.
No one here knows what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
I know. I just dated myself. It's kind of like a CD or an iPod, but so anyway, I learned a lot. I learned about hard work, and if you want things and you want to take care of yourself, you have to work hard, and nothing comes free.
How old were you when you took that job?
I was 15.
15.
Actually, I was 14, but I told them I was 15.
Did you learn any lessons about the workplace there? I mean, sometimes these first jobs, particularly when you're underage, you're not the highest person on the totem pole.
No, and I certainly wasn't. I was the lowest. I think working as a team, I had a blast. During that summer, I had a blast, and I think I translate that into my career. And I've always had my best times, and including Wal-Mart, is working with great people and having a good time, even under a lot of pressure. Having people you like to be around and work with is so important.
Mm-hmm. Did you have a workplace mentor, even in that first job?
The managers of that ice cream parlor were like gods to us, and they treated us well. And that's another thing I learned, is treat people with respect. Mm-hmm. And even though they were 30 years old and I was 14 or 15 years old, they always treated us with respect, and they made sure that we knew how we could be successful. And I think that's important in any role. People just want to know how they can be successful.
Mm-hmm. Who are some of the people that you admire the most?
The first person is my father. Mm-hmm. My father, who's also a McCombs grad, he's now passed away, but he was a big impact on my life. Very humble person, very hard worker, didn't mind hard work at all, and but very high ethic, very high ethic, and I learned a lot from him.
Mm-hmm. How about in the business world, the current business leaders?
And the current business leaders, I think almost every one of my supervisors I've learned a lot from. I guess one of the people I remember early on was a guy named James Ivey. James was the managing partner for Ernst Young in the Fort Worth office, and he came into the office, and we had a lot of fun in that office, but we weren't a very good business. And he cleaned it up very quickly. And at first I didn't like this guy because he took away all our privileges and whatnot. Kind of reminds me of the UT football team. And he instilled a lot of discipline in our office of Ernst Young in Fort Worth. And let me tell you what, within 1 year, the Ernst Young used to have 3 benchmarks that they measured their offices by, and we made the top 10 in all 3 measures. And I remember the pride I had then working, and it totally changed. Roll forward, I left Ernst Young. I went overseas, and I worked, and I actually got out of finance, and I ran a company in Europe, a consumer electronics company. And I went back to Fort Worth for a visit. I had lunch with James Ivey, and he asked me, how in the world did you learn to run a consumer electronics company? And I told him it was him. And that's the kind of impact you can have on people, I think, if you're doing the right things and mentoring and developing. And he never realized it, but he taught me all that.
Wow, amazing. Now, you've had a stellar career up to and including your current position of one of the biggest companies in the world. What do you think set you apart from your peers as you made it through the progression of promotions to get to be CFO?
Yeah, Tom, I've always considered myself kind of the tortoise and the hare. Patience. Mm-hmm. Patience, I think, and humility. And humility because I think in order to succeed, you've got to have kind of a passion for learning, but I don't think you're going to learn a lot if you don't have a lot of humility. And you don't realize when you actually fail. Some people don't allow themselves to understand when they fail. And I think you have to fail to learn. So I think humility is really important, and then patience. And I teach that a lot to the associates, the younger associates at Wal-Mart. Be patient. All of us want things, and we want them quicker than they're probably available. And I let people know, be patient. If you don't like what's going on today, I promise you in 12 months it'll be totally different. Mm-hmm. So patience, and I think those 2 attributes I learned early, and they really served me well.
Yeah, how do you counsel patience with 10 Qs and 10 Ks and in the life of a CFO of a public
Well, that's a good question, because my controller, who's here somewhere, would tell you that I'm probably not real patient sometimes. No, I think having discipline and holding people accountable is extremely important. I'll give you an example. Used to be the CFO of our Wal-Mart International division, and they asked me to go over to be the corporate controller, and this was the year before Sarbanes-Oxley, and we were not prepared for Sarbanes-Oxley. We didn't have the processes, we didn't have the people, and we didn't have the structure. So I was tasked to go in there and to redo all those things. And it's funny, I learned within 18 months, we had turned 100% of the people in the controllers group, 100%. I didn't fire one person. I didn't have to fire one person. I just raised the bar and I held people accountable when they didn't do their jobs, and I let them know they didn't do it. And I realized they didn't want to be around that, and that was fine. And it allowed us to change the mindset of that group. So that's a powerful lesson. You don't have to go in and fire everybody to hold them accountable and change things.
Interesting. What do you consider your greatest professional accomplishment?
People. I take a lot of pride in developing and affecting talent all over Walmart. And I've been very blessed with some incredible talent at Walmart. We spend a lot of time here at UT trying to find that talent and bring them to Walmart. And seeing them grow, I take such pride in that, and seeing how they've achieved what they achieve. Because at Walmart, honestly, we are ordinary people that really do get to achieve extraordinary things. And being able to see people achieve things they never thought they would be part of is pretty incredible.
Yeah, interesting. Now I'm going to ask you to use a little humility. What do you consider the biggest mistake you've ever made?
Oh man, I have made a lot of mistakes.
We're going to use your experience as a teaching moment for our students here.
I'll give you one. Honestly, I went directly from my MBA, from my BBA. They did that a lot in those days, and I was advised not to do that. And I did it, and that was a big mistake, because I'll be honest, everything I learned in my MBA, I didn't know what I was learning because I had no experience, and I had to relearn later in my career. And I wish I had taken 4 or 5 years and gone to learn a little bit about real business and then gone back.
Interesting. All right. So the mistake there was not taking advice.
Not taking my advice. I'd tell you another one. My father, they tested me in high school. I think they still do that, to say what you should do, what you're good at, and all that. I took one of those, took all day long, and I was going to be a dentist. That's what I was going to be. Maybe a doctor. Why are you laughing now? No, I could have been a good dentist. I didn't like biology, but so I tested out, and I just knew I was going to be a dentist. And the test said, yes, you would be a pretty good dentist, but you could also be a pretty good accountant. And my dad told me, I remember that day, you need to be an accountant. And I said, I thought an accountant had a green eye shade and worked at a bank or something. And I said, I'm not going to do that. So I went into pre-dental, pre-med here at UT for 2.5 years and realized, honestly, I didn't like biology. And I don't know of a good dentist doesn't like biology. So I transferred into the business school and ended up with a degree in accounting. And so my dad was right.
Those are good. He was happy to find that out, right? Yeah. Like your career, Walmart is an unbelievable company, and the history of Walmart is something else. What do you think? We were talking earlier about the difference between Intel and Walmart and the DNA of the two companies, how they differ. What do you think is in the DNA of Walmart or in the culture of Walmart that allows it to achieve the position it has today?
I think it starts with the mission of saving people money so they can live better, that people do rally around that. I don't care what job you have, they do rally around that. The second thing I think is very powerful, that is very deep in our DNA, but it's also very subtle. People don't see it, and that's our desire to always improve, continuous improvement. It's one of our cornerstones of our culture we call striving for excellence, and I just think of that as continuous improvement. We're never satisfied. We always act like we're half bankrupt. It's really kind of funny to watch if you're from the outside. When I first came to the company, I remember going into a review for a monthly P&L, and it was like a 12% increase in sales and a 18% increase in profit. And they spent literally 5 seconds saying, well, that's a pretty good month. And they spent the next hour saying what they hadn't done well and what they needed to improve on. And I really think, and you learn that. That wasn't something that was natural to me. And I learned that. And striving for excellence, continuous improvement in Walmart is, I think, one of the biggest keys to our success, along with that mission.
Yeah, so what are the specific challenges to achieving excellence going forward? What are the big hurdles that you think Walmart will have to overcome to maintain that level of excellence?
You know, I think, first of all, Walmart's been successful also about taking risks, changing, always trying to get better as a company. I think when we settle down into just wanting to be the same, don't change anything because everything works well, is when we get in trouble. Right now, the customer is shifting quickly in retail, and we're going to shift with that customer. In fact, we need to shift faster than that customer. And I think that you'll see us do that. That's, if you look, we started with discount stores, we shifted to food to supercenters, then we went international and got really into food. We've come back with small stores, and now we're in e-commerce. And I think you're going to see all of that merge and alter and change quickly how customers are served.
Is there much changing? We don't, as customers of Walmart, we don't get to see the manufacturer, wholesaler side of the business. Is that side as dynamic as the consumer side from your point of view?
Yeah, I think it is, but I think it also relies on the partnership between the manufacturers and the retailers, and really focused on the customer. Sometimes we focus too much on ourselves, and when we do, it's not a good result because that's not what the customer wants. But when we focus together to really help the customer, it can be a great win.
This is, let me ask you a question about how Walmart fits into society and how Walmart conceives more broadly of its responsibilities to society.
Right.
And you just have to, Walmart's a big company, and Walmart is the target often of criticism about wage policies and labor policies and local sourcing issues and things like that. How does Walmart conceive of its social responsibility, and how does that affect the operational approaches that you as a CFO take to the company?
You know, I've been with the company a little over 20 years, and if you look back, starting around 1999 to 2000, we started realizing that we were getting to be kind of a big deal as a company, and that we couldn't just sit in Bentonville, Arkansas and not worry about what else was going on. Because up until that time, we thought that if you bought well, sold to your customers well, took care of them, that's all you need to worry about. And we realized as you got bigger, you had more responsibility. And so to be a leader, whether it's in sustainability or in public policy, and that kind of changed the mindset of the company. And so we do try to get out in front of that. Now, one thing we also learned is you're always going to have a third of the groups and people out there that don't like you no matter what you do. And so I think you have to identify those organizations and people that truly do want to make you a better company and listen to them. That's another change we did back in around 2000, 2001. We want to listen to our critics when they really want to make us a better company. If they just have a political agenda, then we're not interested in that. But if they really want to help us make ourselves a better company, we actually want to listen to them, and we do.
How does Walmart implement that? Do you have citizens councils, or do you have ways to
We
formalize
engage
that
with the NGOs that we think are bona fide in their approach, and they really do want to see good things. We've had NGOs tell us they've been contacted by various labor groups, and it's obvious and they want them to join them. And they say, when we listen to them, then we realize they're not interested in changing Walmart and the environment or whatever. They just have a political agenda. And we're able to identify most of the time who really is interested in making Walmart a better company. Those people we want to listen to.
Yeah. Are these pressures different across the globe? Do you find these matters more important in some countries than others?
Yes and no. I think anywhere you're big, you're going to have those issues, and you have more responsibility. I think people look up to you more to take on that responsibility. At the same time, as an American company, there is a standard a higher standard, I think, that they tend to hold you to, and that's okay. I think we embrace that. We have no problems being held to a very high standard.
Interesting. Last question on the company, and this is kind of a variation on this cultural issue. It has to do with the leadership. You're the CFO of the company. Walmart has had some prominent CEOs, et cetera. What does it take to hold a position of leadership at that level at that company? And how would you distinguish the leaders at Walmart from leaders at Target or Intel or other companies?
Yeah, I'd be hesitant to give any comment on the other companies, but I can tell you about Walmart. We take Our talent process is very focused. It's not like once a year we get together and talk about talent and how we're going to develop it. It's year-round, and you can see that. If you look at our history with our CEOs, our CFOs, our treasurers, whatever, there's been a lot of thought and process to the people taking these roles. So we view it as a critical part of our role, each of our roles, to make sure we're developing that kind of talent. As far as getting them ready for that, I mentioned humility, and I think humility is good and necessary because of what I said earlier, that you've got to have the ability to learn when you're maybe wrong and learn from others. At the same time, humility doesn't mean you lack confidence. It doesn't mean that you're shy and coy. We want to build people's confidence so they can achieve, but we don't want people with egos. The people that fail at our company from the outside at high levels that come in usually have some kind of ego and pride, and they came from environments where the king was the only one that had a say. And at Walmart, it's much more democratic. And we actually, not only is it okay if you come into Walmart and you're brand new to have an opinion, we expect you to have an opinion. And it's okay if you're wrong sometimes.
Interesting. I'm going to ask a couple more questions, and then I'm going to turn it over to the students or people in the audience to ask questions. So we have microphones in both lanes, so just queue up whenever you're ready. Back to part of the reason why we have the speaker series, that young people are looking for tips on how to manage their careers. What's the best piece of advice you were ever given in terms of managing your career?
It was that tortoise and the hare
Yeah.
example, and I actually had a junior partner at Ernst Young sit me down on an annual review, and I hadn't been promoted early, and I was really wanting to be promoted on an early basis, and I thought I should have been, and I didn't, and I was kind of angry about it, and so I actually, he sat me down and said, look, you need to quit this rabbit race that you're doing, and you need to be focused on what your pace is versus others. And when I did that, it made a lot of sense, and I've kind of used it. I kind of focus on me, and I focus on what I can achieve today. I don't worry about too long term on my career, never have, and I want to try to do the best job I can right now, and that has served me really, really well. And so I had friends, and I had colleagues and peers that were more successful than I was in the first 10 years of my career, but I probably outpaced them in the long run.
Oh, interesting. Eva, were you here when Indra Nui was here? She gave a very similar piece of advice. She said, worry about doing your current job well.
Yes.
And the subsequent jobs will come along at the right pace. And
I'd tell you, if I could, this is unrelated, but it's kind of funny about Indra.
Yeah.
When I was the CFO of our international division back about 1997, our CFO at the time, John Menzer, and our treasurer, Jay Fitzsimmons, and myself flew up to see Pepsi in Purchase, New York. And we met with the treasurer and the then CEO, and then they brought in their head of strategy, and it was a lady named Indra Nui. And I saw Indra about a year ago and told her this story. She told us all about how they do their strategy and how they do their international, how they evaluate investments. And we took that back to Walmart, and I bet about 80% of our process came from Pepsi. And I don't think Indra ever knew that until I told her that last year.
Oh, interesting. You guys are here looking at our talent and interviewing people. A lot of these students are those prospects. What makes a person stand out to you when you're trying to evaluate or estimate some of the talent that someone has?
I assume when we interview people from a place like McCombs that they're all very smart. So they can figure out the issues that we have, and they can add value that way. What we really look at is, are they culture fit? And by a culture fit, what I mean, it's very much a team environment. We don't have a lot of, we want you to be the individual star and put you on the pedestal. We want you to be a member of a very high-performing team, and the team is successful and the company's successful. So we look at people, how well they function in a team.
Interesting. Great. I think we'll go to the audience now for some questions. Just tell us your name, maybe your major. Great.
I'm a freshman. My name is Yash Samant, and I'm on declared business. I'm leaning towards accounting, actually. First off, I'd like to thank you for taking out the time to come here and talk to us. My question was, as jobs are coming back to the U.S. with the energy boom and automation and all, do you see Walmart replacing a lot of the jobs inside its stores with automation? And do you see that causing jobs to stay here long term, or do you think they will one day leave again for a period of time?
It's a good question. I do think that you will see a repurposing of jobs. And what I mean by that, I think we were talking about, we're doing a new test in Bentonville, Arkansas right now, and it's a drive-through pickup for groceries. So you can get on your smartphone and you can say, I want these groceries. In 15 minutes, you can drive up, and it'll not be a store, it'll be like a kiosk. You'll drive up to it's like a bank teller lane. You'll drive up, you'll open your trunk, someone will get out, and they'll put the groceries in, you'll sign your receipt, or you'll tap your iPhone and for payment, and you'll drive off. I think you'll see a lot of repurposing of those. I don't know that you'll see a lot of reduction in stores. We do look very much at making sure that we're most efficient as possible with our labor, but at the same time, we would love to take labor out of say a cashier or a back room and put it on the floor to help customers, because that actually can increase sales.
Thank you so much.
First off, thank you for coming. We appreciate your time tonight. My name is John Connell. I'm a finance major here. And it's funny that you mentioned Ingenui. I worked with her for a couple weeks, not her in particular, but in the group that helped look at some of the market opportunities that were available to the company. And you'd mentioned that you pull 80% of Walmart's strategy based upon what you'd learned from Indra. But as far as the other 20%, I'd be curious to hear some of the additional input that Walmart's put on the spin.
Yeah, we paid a high tuition, as one of our former CEOs used to say about an international. I think the biggest things are not every market's the same. I think there are a lot of failures you can see out in the international arena where one company was successful in one country. They thought they would just go over to the next country and it'd be instantly successful. You really have to, it starts with a customer. You really have to understand the customer and build back from that. And that's something we were learning more, the technical aspect of evaluation of projects and hurdle rates and things like that, not about those soft types of issues and questions of entering a market.
Interesting. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Matani Nav. I'm an IMPA major here, and many IMPA majors are going to make that transition from public accounting to industry. So I'm wondering what your experience was like.
What my experience was like? From accounting to?
From EY to wherever you went.
Wherever I went.
How old were you, by the way? How long have you been in accounting before?
I was in accounting for 10 and a half years, and I will tell you this, it was the first 5 years were the best years of my career. I learned so much. I did overseas work. Back then, nobody went overseas, and I was one of those risk takers and did it. The last 5.5 years were miserable, and that's not a comment or commentary on public accounting. It's a comment on learning. I was learning, and I loved it my first 5 years. And the last 5 years when I was a manager, it was administrative, and I didn't like it at all. Then I went to the transition, and I actually headed up international accounting and finance for Tandy Corporation, and I loved it. Within 3 months, I remember thinking, why did I stay in accounting for that last 5 years? I should have found a job like this. It was great. And it was because I was able to use all this accounting knowledge and go solve problems, though, for the company, instead of just identifying them and going on to the next client. And I really enjoyed that. And I was able to use my finance finally, and that's when I had to start relearning some of my finance. And so it was a great time. I learned a lot in those first few years after Ernst Young.
All right, thank you.
Great. Hi, my name is Miriam. I'm a junior finance and history major, and I was wondering, as most of us know, so the iPhone 6 just came out, and we have some awesome new capabilities with that. How is the retail environment in general getting ready to kind of embrace that technology as we have kind of that swipe that we'll have to check out with?
You know, that technology has been around a long time, and we've been waiting to see how it's going to play out. It's a little bit like Washington, D.C., I hate to tell you. There's a little bit of obstacle between the banks, the carriers, the hardware, and the retailer, and we have to get that ironed out. I can tell you right now that we have been engaged furiously with, in a good way, with the banks and the hardware and the carriers for the last 3 months because we need to get this worked out. It's about the customer and the consumer. I think, and this is just my own personal opinion, I think within the next 6 months you'll see a lot of this ironed out, and we'll be gone, and we'll be doing this. It'll be really easy for the customer.
What specifically are you talking about when you're talking about ironing it out? What are
It's
the
always about money.
So
And we are an everyday low price company. We believe and we represent the customer. We want the lowest possible price to have the lowest possible price. We want the lowest possible cost. Well, the way you have it today is these interchange fees for using your credit or your debit, but the back office, those fees are split up among a Visa or a MasterCard or whoever owns the rails along with the banks. And now you have carriers and hardware people wanting to take a piece of the pie. We need to solve this and make it very customer-centric and less about money.
please, over there.
How you doing? My name is Omar. I'm a freshman science and technology management major at McCombs. And my question is, with more and more competition in like technological aspects with e-commerce, for example, and companies like Amazon, is Walmart looking to spend more in research and development or in acquiring companies with existing traction to create competitive advantages?
That's a good question. I think right now we're focused on technology acquisitions, which for our size, honestly, those acquisitions aren't that big, but we do a lot of them. They might be 10 million, 20 million, and it's really about talent and technology acquisition out in Silicon Valley. We actually do a lot of those kind of acquisitions. As far as acquiring an e-commerce company, what's interesting about that, obviously for antitrust we couldn't acquire some of those companies, but if you looked, I think at maybe the top 5 e-commerce companies that we could acquire, that there wouldn't be an antitrust issue with, and you looked at the market cap, their market caps are $250 billion, and it would increase our sales growth by only about 0.7. So I'm not sure that's the most economic way for us to do it. We have the resources, though, and the customer base. We should be able to integrate digital and physical much better, and I think you'll see us do that in the next 18 months.
What kind of presence does Walmart have out in Silicon Valley?
We have probably about 1,700 people and growing. We are actually starting to be a fairly large force out there. And it's interesting. At first, I think when we first started years ago, Silicon Valley didn't want to be associated with a slow, growth, physical, brick and mortar type company. Well, now you find some incredible talent, and they know that they can affect and touch 200 million customers a week by coming to Walmart with their technology. So we're actually starting to be quite a magnet for that kind of talent.
Interesting.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Cleverin. I'm a senior finance economics major. I'm curious, I've always been impressed by how extremely successful leaders such as yourself are involved in numerous boards and of other organizations, such as for yourself, I guess, the Cancer Challenge in North Arkansas. How do you exert your influence in those different organizations based on your past experience or however you're...
That's a great question. I think it's based on what you bring, and you don't need to try to fake it or come up with something. And I think one of the first things I remember on the advisory board here, I don't know if Dean Gilligan remembers, but I encouraged him strongly to get us involved as a school in sustainability and how important, and I think we've done that with the energy sustainability efforts and whatnot. So I think you look where you can make a difference, and then you go for that. And that's what I try to do with whatever area. And I don't want to be on something for the sake of being something. You have to feel like that you're really adding value.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rodolfo Suarez. I'm a physics major, 4th year. I'm curious as to Amazon has already embraced the whole one-click purchase. What has kept, I guess Apple's trying to do the whole get markets to do that as well with iPhone 6. But what has kept Walmart.com from embracing that, or is it due to security problems, or what has just...
I think there's a couple of things. The first, I think, is security. I think the second thing also is just our platform hasn't been at the level it needs to be. I think you'll see that change in the next probably 6 to 12 months. We're making dramatic investments and a system we call Pangea, which is a global system. We'll be able to leverage globally and have much higher level of customer interaction and support.
So I'm old, so I didn't understand that question or
One
that
click.
answer. So this has to do with just like an Amazon-like presence for Walmart?
Yeah.
Okay.
You go on our website and you just click once and it's paid for and you go away.
Yeah.
You don't have to put in any information or whatever.
I see.
Same with the iPhone. You're going to be able to just tap it and you've paid. Like I said, that technology is everywhere. The problem with that right now is you've got to get everybody aligned, and I think it'll happen.
It's the infrastructure that gets in the way. Like sometimes people don't have the infrastructure for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think infrastructure for us is not an issue for the tap and pay. And even the chip and pin that you read about now, we've had that technology for a while. So we could do those things.
Okay.
So I read about breaches at Target and now Home Depot. You seem like a natural candidate or target for such activities.
Yes, we
How
would
big a
be.
focus is that for you personally?
It's not for me personally on a daily, but I obviously have to understand what we're doing and pay attention because it's internal controls. We have a very good group of cybersecurity people, but there is no system that's going to be foolproof, and we know that, and we try to continue to monitor it. This is one area that companies are allowed to talk to each other that are your competitors, and we try to do that because it helps each other. It doesn't do anybody any good for Target to have a data breach or Home Depot. It hurts the whole industry. And so we try to help each other as much as we can. Having said that, there is nothing that's perfect. One of the things that has helped us, though, is that the systems, for the most part, that have been invaded have been canned systems, and they're Windows-based. Our system is very proprietary, and that's probably helped us. That it's not a canned system.
Hi, I'm Colin. I am a management junior here. You've mentioned all the teamwork that's involved at Walmart, and I've heard the fantastic stories, and I've been to your DCs, and I've seen the teamwork firsthand. But with the trial that you mentioned with the kiosk and the pickup and just all the technology that's coming into play, how do you see that affecting Walmart's culture with the teamwork?
Oh, I think it's going to require the greatest amount of teamwork because what we're having to do now is take the Silicon Valley way of wanting to do things, which is about eaches, by the way, if you think about it. And then you take the Walmart traditional brick and mortar, which is mass merchandising, and how do you merge those and merge them and make them work? And so it's going to require a great deal of teamwork.
Thank you.
Is merging those two cultures, is that part of the strategy function at Walmart, or where is it located?
It is actually located in both areas, and I'll give you one. One is supply chain logistics, and we have our head of logistics for our Walmart U.S. stores. He is responsible also for figuring out the eaches and how are we going to deliver, how are we going to get the eaches, and how are we going to deliver to the kiosk. But he also has our Walmart.com associates and logistics assigned with him, so it's a team approach. And a lot of the answers aren't out there right now, and they know it, and they've got to go figure it out quickly.
Hi, Mr. Holley. My name is Luke Fernandez. Thank you so much for coming today. I have two questions, if that's okay for you. One of them was, what's a brand that inspires you outside of Walmart, and why?
What's a brand that inspires me, and why? Oh, man.
Titleist golf balls?
Titleist golf balls, yeah. There's a lot of great brands out there, I'll be honest. And I think any brand, and I don't, as a retailer, I really hesitate to mention any one brand. That probably wouldn't be a good idea. But I will tell you, any brand that represents our core customer excites me, and I really do like. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of integrity in the brand. They have a similar business model where we're not interested in making a high gross profit percentage. We're interested in selling volume and getting high gross profit dollars. That's what's important to us. And those brands that can do that and can offer something to the customer in a very ethical and very a way that'll improve our customers' lives, those are the kind of brands I like.
Awesome. Another question was, when asked what one of your biggest achievements was, you mentioned people. Interested to hear how you juggle all of the activities of being a CEO while still dedicating time to develop the people around you.
You have to make time. You have to be disciplined with it. And we do at Walmart in all of our areas, either at the CEO level, CFO level, or below my level. We schedule time, I want to say once a month, once every 2 months, and it's always talking about talent. And it culminates, which I think is part of the discipline, with kind of a grand meeting on talent, and it happens in the summer or it happens early September. Like I actually had it yesterday for the whole company with the CEO, and we talked about our top 50 talent around the world in every country, and what we were going to do with them, what was important for their next move, and where we thought they could get to if we helped them. So you just have to make time.
Thanks so much.
Hello, I was wondering what the most exciting thing is about working at Walmart.
For me personally, and I think it is for most of our people, we are so many businesses wrapped under the name of Walmart. Some of you have heard me say this before, but we are probably the world's largest real estate company. And think of the issues you get to work with, something like that. You're probably the world's largest treasury operation of a non-bank, of an industrial company. You're probably one of the world's largest sporting goods companies, pharmaceutical companies, international companies, beginning to be internet companies, on and on and on. And you can imagine the challenges that you have every day when I come to work and look at that. That really gets me up in the morning. If I came in every day and I worked on the same issues around the same kind of business, I think I would personally be pretty bored. But the issues that we get to deal with are incredible, and they're very, very wide. That's why we come to a school like McCombs. We only go to a few schools to recruit. In our MBAs, we recruit at Harvard, Northwestern, we recruit at Duke, Chicago, UT, just a handful. We have to have the best and brightest that can deal with these issues. If you come to work for us, for instance, an MBA, I'm sorry, this is a recruiting spiel.
Go for it.
If you come to work, though, for us in your MBA, you're like a little consulting group, and you're going to be working. We could throw you into health and wellness tomorrow, and then a month later, we're going to put you on a project in China on how to do a produce DC. That's what's fun. And I know that you probably weren't trained in that way, but we want people that aren't afraid of those challenges. That's what keeps me up, keeps me excited about my job.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Edward. I'm a supply chain major here, and I recently read an article about Walmart and the challenge that you'll have increasing profitability. To increase y'all's profitability by like 1%, it's some huge number, that you have to increase your sales by. So beyond sales, how are you looking to increase profitability to please your shareholders?
Yeah, I think when you ask that question, you have to look at the base business and versus where you want to go with your investments and you're going to have to invest in the P&L when you get into our e-commerce businesses, and we know that. Again, we're not interested in increasing our profit percentages as much as we are volume and profit dollars. So that's our business model is not about increasing percentages. Most companies get trapped into that. And that's what I think one of the things that's made Walmart successful is that we don't get trapped in, constant profit percentages going up. Wall Street would like to see that, but we have one of the highest profit percentages already in retail. And I think you need to be very careful that you're not trying to squeeze too much out of it, or you end up losing sales and losing your customer. You end up not focusing on customer, you're just focusing on profit.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mickey Wolf. I'm a freshman from San Antonio. And I was curious, as somebody that's in charge of hundreds and hundreds of employees, what do you do in terms of delegating jobs and giving people autonomy to make their own decisions for the people working under you?
That's a good question. I think it's extremely important that you empower the people that work underneath you. Now, you need to be smart about it. Don't empower them to do things that they can't go do. But you also, you need to stretch them, but you need to empower them to go do it. And without that, when you have a $500 billion company, you can't manage it any other way but to delegate and empower people. And so we work a lot at stretching our people, but not overdoing it. We don't want to drown them, but it's not unusual for them to be a little over their head. We don't have a linear path at Walmart and finance, or even any of our parts of our company. We like taking you and putting you in different environments. We may even take you out of finance and put you in operations. We've done that before, and then bring you back. We think that's really healthy and broadens our associates.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Becca. I'm a first-year MBA student here, and I was wondering, how is Walmart using big data to customize their services and target their customers further?
Well, we have a lot of data, as I think I mentioned. It's pretty incredible. We probably have more data than anybody in the world except for the U.S. government. And so what the key is, what do you do with that data?
Yeah.
And you know, it's interesting. You may or may not know, we helped start a degree here, MS in data analytics, because we thought it's so important where businesses are going and their needs. We need them in audit, believe it or not. We've got to have specialists in audit. We have them obviously in our systems area, but we have them in our customer insights area. We have them in our .com area. We have them in our merchandise area. And basically, it's interpreting the data so you can not just stick with the customer, but hopefully anticipate what the customers are going to need is extremely important. We're just, I think, at the beginning of understanding how to use some of that big data. And that's what excites me, because I think part of it is we don't have the resource, and it's not just us. There's not enough people that know how to slice and dice the big data and interpret it. And that's why I'm really proud of McCombs for getting into that degree. I think it's extremely important. It'll become more important in the future.
Thank you.
Where do you think Walmart is in terms of using data analytics to drive its business? Is it infancy or 1%?
I think it's in infancy. I really do. I think there's so much out there that we're learning every day. We have these data rooms that they're like double top secret. I could never let you in there, you know.
You could, but you'd have to kill
me.
me.
Yeah, I could have to kill you. And it's pretty amazing how we can drill down into the data, into the customer, market share, at a small market, big market, and what we can glean and how a buyer can use that. And we're starting to use it a lot, but I think it can go a lot farther.
How do you manage the privacy issues associated with using customer level data?
It's blind. We don't.
Okay, you strip it out.
Yeah, it'll be stripped out. It's blind.
Hello again.
Hello.
I wanted to ask you, when you were, I guess, moving up in the ladder in your career, did you ever encounter bosses that you didn't? I mean, you're going to encounter bosses you don't agree with. How would you like secrets you would do to handle bosses that wouldn't understand what you were trying to get across? Like, would you just avoid them, or would you try and get around it? How would you handle?
That's a really good question, and I think it's important for this group in business school, and I think it's part of ethics. I think you have to have managerial courage to be successful, and that doesn't mean that you are blunt, and that doesn't mean to get your point across or that you're a pest or whatever. But it does mean that when you see something that you think is right and something's wrong, that you do have the ability to stand up and make sure that people understand what's there, what the real answer should be and is. And so yes, like everybody, I've had some supervisors that were not real easy to get along with all the time. But I think they knew that I had integrity, they knew that I was honest, and they knew that I had the company's best interests. And I worked very hard to make sure that they knew that always. They may not, you know, as an accountant or a finance person, you get to deliver the bad news a lot of times when there's bad news. So I guess I had some practice in that, but you can't shy away from it. It's extremely important that you have that courage.
Thank you.
Please.
Oh, well, you talked about respecting and empowering those that work for you. What other things do you do to keep everyone around you, as well as yourself, motivated?
You got to have some fun. I mean, you really do. You've got to like the people you work with, and that's part of that culture thing. When I said if you're not good in a team, you know, you're probably not going to be well liked. And so, but you know, what's great about Walmart is that you can have a big effect at a lower level than most companies, and it can be a big effect, whether it's in the .com or it's in finance or, we have people right now that are 2 and 3 years out of school out of McCombs. One of them is here right now, and they're actually helping craft our enterprise strategy for the whole company for the next 5 years. That's pretty impactful, and that keeps people buzzed. I mean, that's fun, and that's fun to watch for me.
Thank you.
You go over this side, please.
For those of us who are involved in recruiting and placement, how do you define the most important skills that you're looking for in people? How do you define skills?
Well, like I said earlier, I think that if you're coming out of a school like McCombs and you have an accounting degree, for instance, or a finance degree with a minor in accounting or something, you already have all those skills behind you to do the analysis and whatnot. What it really then, I think, relates to is how well do you work in the team environment? How well can you pick up your piece of the team and push it forward with the team? That's really important to me because I think most people here can do the technical work. We're not as concerned about that. If you make it through the pre-screens and whatnot, by the time you get there, it's really about do you fit in?
It's interesting. I've been reading a book by the authors of Academic Adrift, and they've got a new book out about how undergraduate students transition to adulthood. And they talk a lot about the technical skills you attain in college and how they're valuable, but there's a big emphasis on the learning to be adult skills,
Yes.
working with people in teams and being a productive force in whatever you do. And those are challenging advancements in human development for me as an educator to try to impart in students. I mean, at some level, it's up to students to figure out how to do that for themselves in many ways, right?
It is, and it also relates to, I think, maturity curve.
Yeah.
And if it's all about them,
yeah,
they may be the smartest person in the room, but if it's
Right.
all about them, most of the time, people will not want to be around that person, and that's that culture fit I was talking about. And so that's really important that it's not always about them, and that there's a maturity curve on how to deal with people. I always tell people, don't be that person that when you're going in a group that you want to go out to the side and get noticed from the side. Be the person that is so good that you rise from the top. And I think that's really important.
Hi, my name is Ela Motley. I'm a first-year business student here. And my question is, what's one of your greatest concerns for Walmart in the future? And what's a strategy that you feel will help combat that concern?
I think our ability and speed with which we can connect and integrate the digital and the physical presence for customers is going to be crucial in the next 5 years. I have no doubt we'll do it, but it's going to be very important that we do it. And I can't even tell you what it means by market, because every market's going to be a little different. But I think the customer experience in retail is going to totally change in the next 5 years, and it's critical that we get ahead of that. And because there's always going to be a first mover advantage, and we need to make sure we have that first mover advantage.
Thank you.
Interesting. One more question.
Hi, my name's John Burstein. I'm a freshman, first-year business student. I was wondering, how has your cultural exposure, both domestically and internationally, affected you professionally?
I went international back in '83. I went to Jakarta, Indonesia with Ernst Young and a consulting project. And in those days, there was no thing as globalization. Nobody talked about that. Nobody went international. It was not the thing to do. And it was the best thing that I ever did. And it broadened me. It opened my eyes that there's a different world out there. There's a different way to do things. There are different cultures. You can be successful many different ways. Also, I love the diversity of the people and experiences, and I think that actually helped me a lot in my career, because I came back to the U.S. and I was really a different person in how I thought and how I saw things.
Thank you.
Outstanding. Charles, that's all the time we have for this. I'm going to ask Mandy to come back up for a short presentation.
Thank you very much, Dean Gilligan and Mr. Holley. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to speak with our students. I know that we will be able to take our lessons and apply them into our own lives. As a token of our appreciation, the Undergraduate Business Council would like to present Mr. Holley with this personalized session cowboy hat in recognition of your participation in the VIP Distinguished Speaker Series.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
No problem.
I appreciate it. All right, am I supposed to take it out?
There we go.
Oh, how about that? Yee-haw. Look at that.
Can we get a picture of it?
Thank you.
It's been such a pleasure.
Appreciate it.